Hi and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm just going to be putting together a quick, quite small but seasonal Valentine's Day bouquet. Now the flowers and things that I've got are very seasonal to the West Midlands, and they're all growing without a polytunnel or anything like that. I know that there's lots of lovely, at the moment, seasonal British flowers from across the UK. So down south, I think they've already got some daffodils and some tulips, etc. And I know there's people growing in polytunnels and greenhouses, and they've got lots of other flowers at the moment, snapdragons and a few bits and bobs. So the things that I've got are completely growing in my flower farm or my garden outside. So these are just things that are 100% seasonal and available at the moment for me. Therefore it isn't very flower heavy, this bouquet, and it's quite small. But I thought it was a good idea to kind of, well, for me as well, to experiment with what I will have available for next year, because I'm not selling any Valentine's Day bouquets this year. So this is more for, experimenting for me for next year, but also to kind of show what you can put together that's just available and growing right now. So first of all, I will talk you through everything that I have here. So flower wise, I have one daffodil. It's my one and only daffodil so far that is even remotely ready to be in the bouquet, and it is just a standard yellow daffodil. I have a range of hellebores. Now, when it comes to putting hellebores in bouquets, there are a few different things that can make it either difficult or easy. They're not the best sort of flower for cutting. However, they do still manage to work. I know that if you leave them to flower and go to seed, and you get the sort of flower / seed head, which is basically the flower head, but the petals have gone really hard and they've lost a lot of the colour, and you get that nice sort of structural seed pod in the middle. They last a lot longer. However, you can make them last as flowers in a bouquet. They will drop their pollen, etc. quite easily, and the way I do it is I make a slit in the bottom of the stems, just with a pair of scissors, and I submerge the flower to at least up to the flowers in cold water, and I condition them that way. And these were cut 2 days ago, and they're all holding up pretty well. Like, the floppiness is just your standard hellebore floppiness. Greenery wise, so for my main structure, I have a couple of branches of mock orange. I have, for some extra colour interest, I have some variegated periwinkle. I have some rosemary, and I have some fern leaves. For a bit of filler and interest, I actually have some dry geranium. So obviously this isn't seasonal, however it's one of the dried flowers I have an absolute abundance of, and it will probably come back with a vengeance this year, and I'll probably have like triple the amount of dried geranium. So in theory this is seasonal. Now, I actually tend not to really like the combination of fresh and dried flowers. I like to try and keep them separate, but I guess I don't mind so much with the euryngenium, because it kind of looks the same dried as it does fresh. There's not that much of a difference. And then last but not least, I've waited a long time to be able to get enough of these to cut them. This is actually flowering quince. So this could be classed as a flower. It has a few little flower buds on it that will open up. However, they're not doing great. So because of the weather, my flowering quince actually put out buds, flower buds, really early. And then we had another frost, and it kind of killed a lot of them off. So these might not flower. That's why I'm putting these in as a filler / foliage rather than a flower. But in a normal year, these should be covered in gorgeous little pinky orangey buds and would be classed as a flower, a seasonal flower. So, oh, it feels like ages actually since I've made a bouquet, because it's yeah, it's been since the summer. So I'm going to take 2 of my main pieces of structure and start there with a base. I'm going to take the mock orange and the big piece of Euryngium, and I'm going to start there, putting them together. And I think I'm going to pop in my flowering quince, and now let's add some flowers. It does actually feel odd having a bouquet in my hands again after so long. You kind of forget what it feels like to arrange flowers when you haven't done it for a while. And that's the thing, that's the only thing with hellebores. I love them, but they do have this natural flopping tendency. There's not a lot of focal flowers, so it is mostly greenery. So I'm kind of, as well as looking at the shape and the colour, I'm also looking at the combination of textures. They have a few different interesting textures, so it's distributing them evenly as well. And this is the thing with the hellebores, the fact that they can flop quite a bit. When you've got a lot of sort of hardwood things to play with, such as, you know, the mock orange and the rosemary, you can use them almost to prop things up and hold them up a little bit. The poor one yellow daffodil. I don't know, I mean, I'm going to leave it in there just because it is the only daffodil I have at the moment that's ready. But it is kind of lost in amongst all of the pinks and the purples and the greens. And then lastly, pop in the last little bits of periwinkle, and there we go. That, and to finish it off, let's get an elastic band first. So I have to trim up the bottom, the stems, obviously, there's a daffodil there, so technically, you know, you wouldn't want to put that in water along with everything else for a little while, because obviously the daffodils are toxic to other flowers. Yep, that's nice and tight. Cut off your stems. I haven't got my actual flower clippers, and there's a lot of hardwood stems here. That's what I get for leaving them. And I don't know if I can get this. There we go. Oh, nearly stood up. There we go. Technically it's for Valentine's Day, so I'm going to get a lovely red ribbon around it. I think when the bouquet is a bit smaller, sometimes you can either, like, I think go one or the other, either go really understated with the ribbons, etc., or really over exaggerated. So I've gone for a nice big floppy red bow for Valentine's Day. And there we go. So yeah, it is not the largest bouquet for sure, but it has that lovely natural spring feel. There's some real interest in there. Again, I don't know, I think it would need a couple of daffodils to justify that daffodil being in. Just one more punch of yellow I think would work, but I'm guessing the variegated periwinkle ties that in. Now, one thing I will say for this bouquet is that all of the things that I've chosen, I've tested, and they do actually last really well. In fact, I've never really seen periwinkle being used as a foliage, but I used it at Christmas in a wreath, and it held up. I didn't have any moss in my wreath, and so there was no water source, and it held up. It held up. It was a little bit quicker to die off than the pine and the other things that I used in my Christmas wreath, but I mean, it was out there, no water, anything, for weeks, and it survived. It didn't die. I was very impressed. So in water, that should keep on going. Again, I'm not sure why I've not seen it used much. I love it. It's that kind of, it's a creeper, so it creeps along the ground, and it's kind of, I think it sits, it's the nature of it, it kind of sits somewhere between having the structure of a normal like foliage that you would grow and a climber that, you know, that you'd put in, and it would like, you'd use it to like twist and turn. Somewhere in the middle there, it's got lovely bits that are just like normal structure, and then some that have a bit more sort of movement to them, and you can wind it in, you can cut it. It's really good because it's got leaves all the way along. You can kind of cut sections of it as well and like play with it that way. I didn't actually specifically grow this at all. It one day turned up in my garden as a weed. Don't know where it came from. Must have been a bird or something, dropped some seed. But yeah, it cropped up in a space in my garden that was under a buddleia that was really shady and nothing was growing. It took, and I left it thinking, yep, that's a nice filler for that space, and now it's like grown in abundance, and I am in love with it as a foliage, to be honest. The mock orange had amazing luck with that. Like, that's one of my shrubs that's really like taken off and grown really, really well, and amazing phase life every time I've used it. The quince, this will be the first time actually that I'm testing the quince. I think it should be okay. It's used so much in flower farming that I don't see it having any issues. The hellebores, like I said, they can be finicky. I've got one in a vase at the moment as a test, and so far, with the conditioning that I said, it's day 4 or day 5, and it's fine. It hasn't drooped, it hasn't dropped any petals, so I've got high hopes that these ones will do the same. Fern foliage, I don't know if anyone's used fern foliage often, but I've used it a few times, and again, it's pretty robust. It doesn't, it's, you know, sits in the vase and doesn't really wilt. But same with rosemary. And then that's it. And then daffodils obviously have a really long vase life as well. I've not got much experience with putting dried flowers into a vase of water. I have heard they can rot really quickly because they are dried, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, there we go. Just a quick short one. I was hoping there was a bit more to play with and I could do like a really sort of more involved, longer kind of video around this, but yeah, that's my little Valentine's Day bouquet, and I hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.